author of Heart Healing. Welcome, Susyn.
Hi, it's great to be with you, Sherry. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for being here and making the time. And, we talked a little bit before we started, and we have a special way that we want to open up this particular live conversation. Susyn is going to share a beautiful prayer it's at the beginning of the book, right? Is that where I found it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so let's hear it. That'd be wonderful.
And I'm going to read it, even though I wrote it.
Of course.
It's called The Prayer for Wholehearted Living. Today, I live a wholehearted life. I easily let go of my attachment to thoughts and behaviors that block the flow, the inflow and outflow of love in my life. I know my purpose is to be a mighty expression of love in the world through expressing and generously offering my unique gifts, talents, and skills for the highest good of all. I trust that every experience I have is an opportunity to deepen and expand my capacity to be, give, and receive love. I ask for and receive all help available to me, visible and invisible, to easily and effortlessly learn from and release habit patterns of fear, blame, and separation. Have faith in a loving future and live fully and wholeheartedly in the precious present for the eternal peace and happiness of all. And it is so. Nice to read it.
It really was beautiful. I loved it when I read it in the book. But what a gift to get to hear you read it to us.
Yeah, thank you for asking, because I will admit I have not read it to myself recently.
Oh.
And so it's such a wonderful reminder. I mean, I don't know if you've had this experience with your book, is that you open it sometimes. I open this sometimes and I wrote this? Whoa, I knew this then? This is good. And that's how I feel about this prayer. It was such a great opportunity. And I really think that this is the message for us to live a wholehearted life, to heal our hearts of the wounds of the past.
Well, and as you might imagine, part of the reason I wanted you to read it, we find ourselves in a particular time, right, in our history. And I know you probably wrote that prayer long before any of this was happening. And yet, to me, it felt like this really jumped out at me as one of the tools we can use to heal ourselves and the world.
Absolutely. I mean, words are real things. Thoughts charged with emotional energy is, the beginning of the creative process. And so I really like this reminder of, to free our hearts from those patterns of beliefs that result in fear. Because the truth is, really, from moment to moment, we never know what's going on, other than that the sun rises and it sets.
I love that you're bringing this up. I was just talking to a friend yesterday about the illusion of control that, we thought we had 2-3 months ago, but we didn't, and I think it's beautiful that you're bringing it up. And I'd love to know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, do you have a couple practical things to share for people about how to start to examine those beliefs or see how those beliefs might be causing fear or anxiety?
Yes, I have a very simple exercise, and it's in the book, and it's simple enough for me to describe it to you right now. It's that it's a writing exercise, and it's when I am feeling. So when I am feeling fearful, and include the emotional name of the feeling, fearful,
as
well as the physical sensations in our body. So it might be when I'm feeling fearful, I feel palpitations
Yeah.
in my heart. And then it's, I am believing. So what am I believing about myself when I feel fearful? What am
Yeah.
I believing about the circumstance or a particular other person or group of people? And what do I believe about life? And actually write them down with no judgment about the beliefs, and understanding that the beliefs are our programming. And we upgrade our computers, our phones much more frequently than we upgrade our beliefs.
Oh my God, that's so great.
And then take a look at, well, what beliefs would serve me more? And start writing down particular beliefs and play with them. Have a particular belief like, I am safe.
Yeah.
That counters fear. And then notice when you say that you're safe, what else comes up? Well, I really don't believe it. I won't be safe until X occurs. And I mean, so that's one layer of it, which is dealing with the thoughts. There's another layer of it, which is when I notice that I'm feeling fearful, and let's say I have palpitations in my heart.
Yeah.
One, I acknowledge, I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling my heart beating really, really fast. Then I acknowledge it. And then I ask the feeling in my body, what do you need?
Oh.
And if it's a long story or you need someone else to do something, that's your head speaking.
Yeah.
You're bad. Like, you want to listen to the wisdom of your heart, which will be a much shorter answer. It may be, take a deep breath. It may be, hug, and let's say you're by yourself sheltering in place. Well, give yourself, it is that younger self in us that's scared, because in the moment when we look around, we see in that exact moment, we are safe.
Wow. Oh,
So that was
Susyn,
a number of techniques.
that is beautiful. I'm going to pause because also I want people to be able to take this in and really consider doing this for themselves. I also want to say hi to Rachel, who's a fellow author, and it's always so nice to see you, Rachel. She just said great exercise.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah. Yeah. So Susyn, I love that. And I love the layers of it, the way that you walked us through. And it, I know it will take a little bit longer, but still it's not that time consuming. It doesn't sound like.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that you won't feel the fear later on in the day or the next day. It is over time when we notice the fear and can say, thank you, fear, for sharing. I choose feeling safe.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Right. So
Because
this is,
sorry.
sorry. No, we're just both so excited. That's okay. You go.
These feelings have to be acknowledged. So often what we consider to be negative feelings, when there's simply energy attached to a particular thought, that we want to get rid of them. There's no getting rid of. There's moving through. And if you, yeah.
I just want to say I love that so much. And, we've all heard that expression, right? The only way out is through.
Yes.
And I think you're really pointing that out. The other side of that, though, that I really wanted to underscore that you're saying is we do still get to choose. Like, we don't have to be held captive, by those feelings. And I think that's what you're pointing us to. Like, we can acknowledge them, let them move through us. Like children. I always think of children do it so beautifully.
Exactly. Because when they get over it, they're not obsessing about it, and they're not waiting to tell every other child they see about what their parents said to them, or somebody took their toy, or their ice cream fell off the cone. They're finished.
Susyn, that's great, right? They're just on to the next moment, but they let themselves have that moment, but they just didn't bring it. I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like there's a way of that they don't carry it into the next moment.
Yes, unless the repetition of the hurt, the trauma,
Mm.
the abuse continues.
Yeah. Well, okay, so there's another part of that beautiful prayer I also want to go to. So the part that when I read it, that really was like a neon for me, it said, a mighty expression of love. What was the words before that? Let me be, was it like, let me be? Do you have it in front of you? I think it was like,
Yes, I know my purpose is to be a mighty expression of love in the world.
I totally, when I read that, I thought, whoa, that's so perfect. If I woke up in the morning and said to myself, my purpose is to be a mighty expression of love, how that would shift, and I'm fortunate because I do have a similar practice where I do that. And so I know, but the fact that you pointed it out in such beautiful language, tell us a little of the how-to for that.
So let me just tell you where it came from.
Okay. Okay.
I wrote and self-published a little story book in 2005 called The Gift of the Acorn. And the general idea of The Gift of the Acorn, it's told in a story form of the child named Joy, and her parents were named Leaf and Fern, and they lived in a tree house between three tall oaks. And the idea of the book is that within an acorn, if the conditions are right, there is everything that's needed to become a mighty oak. And that led to me writing that within each one of us is the coding to be a mighty expression of love in the world. And so, how do we be that? And then how do we express it in our thoughts and our actions? And I apprenticed for 2.5 years with Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements.
Yeah.
And one day, while we were on a retreat in Mexico, he said, there are 10 million ways to express love. And you know how you hear a statement and it just stays with you?
Yes.
It's something for it to hook onto. And starting that day, I started looking around at the different ways people were expressing love. Somebody was holding a door open for someone.
Yeah.
Someone at the dinner table, there was a buffet, got up to get a drink and asked the rest of us at the table, can I get you anything when I'm up? There were these simple acts that go on in life. I go to the supermarket here. I'm with friends here. And before I go, I text and say, is there anything else that you want that you didn't put on the list? I mean, that's an expression
Yes.
of love.
Yes.
So, yes, that romantic love that is so delicious, that falling in love, which feels so great. But there's also being in the presence of a newborn, listening to a piece of music that gives us chills. When I lived in Manhattan and the moon was full, to capture the sight of the moon and that feeling of awe. And I feel that during this time of the coronavirus, there are people who I haven't spoken to in years who pop into my mind. And if I have their phone number, I call them.
Yeah.
If I just have their email, I send them a little note thinking of you. Just warmed my heart when you popped into my mind. So playing with what does love look like? What are the many faces of love? And it's really about where we're coming from with no strings attached and are generously offering our gifts, our talents, our skills with no expectation. I do this, so now you owe me. It's that wonderful feeling of generosity. And what happens is the more we give without strings attached, the more we get back.
I know. It's magical, isn't it?
Yes. Absolutely.
And I think it's so beautiful. A couple things. One is I think that 10 million ways to love has hooked into me. Love that. I feel like I'm going to be starting a list, to see if I can get to 10 million. So that is just absolutely beautiful. And the other thing is exactly what you're saying, that, love does not come with we need a return receipt or we need something back. And I think that's one of the, it's just one of the most beautiful lessons that we could learn, that it's like we're just, and like you're saying, it comes in so many forms.
Yes. I want to say something about that because I'm an interfaith minister, interspiritual minister, and I was in the midst of a divorce during this 2-year seminary program. And at one point, we were focusing on marriage, how to officiate weddings and marriage vows. And I thought, what about the vows I made? Now that we're divorced, what do I do with the vows? And what became clear to me is I'm not going to have a lot of husbands in my life. I may have more than some, but there aren't going to be a lot. And that I do hold that human in my heart. I do want the best for him. That we separated, that it was contentious for a time. All of those things were true. But what was bigger than that is here is a human who, for whatever reason, played that role of husband in my life and loved me.
Yeah.
Brings tears to my eyes.
Me too.
It was a very powerful experience because so often when a relationship ends, there's so much focus on being heard, and it shouldn't have been this way. And if only I didn't say that, if only she didn't say that, if only he didn't say that. Another aspect of it was love, to know that I was capable.
Right.
Loving.
And, it's interesting, Susan, because you don't know this about me, I don't think. But I live with my ex-husband. So when we divorced, we raised our son together because the family, there's just, the family, we didn't want to break up. We weren't romantically right. But so I'm very interested. I call it expanding the container of love. Like, I'm very interested in how do we learn to transform love and love in new ways and let it shift and change, and not, like you're saying, I think that was so beautiful. Like, I always think that I'm friends with everyone I ever was in love with because that love, right? To me, it doesn't go away. Stuff gets layered on and, things shift. But I think this is part of the mighty love.
Yes, being a mighty expression of love. And in heart healing, the power of forgiveness to heal a broken heart, it starts with the first section of the book is about a breakup that was totally unexpected to me via email. I mean, you're not young, but via email.
I know.
And there is, yes, I was hurt. I think how he handled things, I don't have an emotional charge about it anymore. I think the way he handled things was, just ridiculous. That's how he handled them. He was doing the best he could do at that moment. But more than anything, I remember how loved I felt in that relationship. And how open-heartedly I offered my love. And when the relationship ended, when he came home from this trip he was on, and I was in the house, I said to him, I am not going to allow this to close my heart. I have worked too hard. And I said, I just want to come and embrace you, and that's not okay with you. And I'm not going to hold myself back from expressing my love. And if I can't do it for you with you, then I cannot. Yeah, I know you don't want me to be here right now, but
Yeah.
I cannot be here because
Wow.
I will not permit that to happen to me.
What that is so powerful. And as you were saying that, what I was thinking is, so we could take that straight into this moment again. And I think this is the thing, right? I don't know how many conversations I've had with people about this heart opening time, how people's hearts have opened. Now, I know for some people, there is that closing, but I think the message for us all, and that what you're so beautifully expressing, I love your stories, is that we do have that choice to pause and to say, I know there's a lot going on right now. There's grief, there's loss, like, there's so much, but can I keep my heart open?
And I think that ultimately is one of the gifts of death.
Yes.
That it reminds us that in a snap of a finger, and it's also it's death of those we love and care for. It's the physical death of a human being, but it's also the death of our routines. And for some of us, it's the death of having the separation between what we know our heart's desire is
Wow.
and what we do in the world. Because the world needs lovers.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. You're right. And thank you for putting that out. There are deaths of all kinds happening all the time, and it's my own spiritual teacher. We keep talking about this, that there's a lot of death right now. There was a lot of death 3 months ago. There was a lot, cancer, heart disease,
Yeah.
starvation. I mean, we could, and that if we can keep our hearts open no matter what, in my own experience, I'm able to give more generously from that place.
Yes.
Why is that, Susyn? Why is it more generous when we're open-hearted?
Well, because there's a way that the energy can flow out of us. When we're closed-hearted and armored for this idea that we're protected, but we're really not protected. But when we have the courage to lovingly express ourselves, I'm someone who consciously eliminated the word love from my vocabulary when I was a young teen. I had made a decision because of actually something very loving my parents had done. When my mom went into the hospital when I was 3, I thought it would be best if I stayed with my grandparents who loved me. There was a scene of saying goodbye to my mother in a big Manhattan hospital. I'd never slept away from my parents and my sisters before. And at 3 years old, I was traumatized. And the way I internalized it without words for it is there was something wrong with me. I wasn't loved. I was sent away. Years later, my mom and I had many talks about this. And she said, that was really a mistake. A different child came home. So as I got older, I believed that I wasn't loved, that I wasn't enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't this enough. I wasn't that enough. And so as a teen, I'd write in my diary, my journal, and I decided since I wasn't loved, which I had very, very loving parents, which you can kind of understand it if it's the other way around, if they had been cruel to me. I decided to eliminate the word love from my vocabulary, and I totally eliminated it. I remember when one of the Beatles songs came out, and I was walking with a friend. We were both had what would be called earpods right now from transistor radios, and so we're both listening to my little transistor radio, and she said, "I love this song," whatever Beatles song it was. And I said, "I love it too." And then I said out loud, "No, I mean, I like it." I was so serious about this. So much so that when I was in camp at the summer, my mother would write to me. I'd be in this major dilemma about whether to sign my letter back to my parents' love. And it took time. It took many years, at least 7 or 8 years, for me to begin to allow that word into my vocabulary. And now I just led a workshop today called Love Notes to Myself. So this is testimony that we can upgrade the software of our mind in both eliminating thoughts. I eliminated the word love.
Yeah.
And then we can also do it in introducing new thoughts. I now think I'm a mighty expression of love.
Susyn, you are a mighty expression of love. And I can't believe it. Our time has literally just sped by. I thank you for your beautiful stories. And you really have woven together the poetry of your life. And I encourage people to buy your book. We'll make sure we put the link under this video so people can buy it. And is there anything that you want to end our talk on? A few words?
Yes, I have one thought, and that is our relationship with ourselves forms the blueprint for all the relationships in our lives. So the degree that we don't love ourselves constricts our ability to receive love.
That is a big thought to leave everyone with, and a really great one. Susyn, thank you for showing up. Thanks for showing up so open-hearted and for freely sharing your stories. And again, I'll put the link for your book underneath so people can buy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've loved our conversation.
Wow, it was very fun.
Bye.